Welcome to today's Explainer. If you're trying to make sense of the deep currents driving the economy right now, well, we've got some fascinating connections to explore. We're going to unpack exactly how the surging currents of global trade, some major geopolitical updates, and massive leaps in tech are all colliding to shape today's market. Let's get right into it.
Here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll start with macro trends and geopolitics, then we'll zoom into big tech's next era, and wrap up with today's market calendar.
Starting off with Section 1, Macro Trends and Geopolitics.
So we're kicking things off with some truly impressive data out of China for the month of May. We're looking at a broad trade boom where overall exports rose by a really strong 19%. But what's actually fascinating here is the specific catalyst behind the boom. This surge is almost entirely fueled by an absolutely insatiable global demand for artificial intelligence hardware. The world is literally building the infrastructure for AI as we speak, and it's supercharging manufacturing pipelines across the board.
And this comparison really paints the picture. While general exports saw that healthy 19% rise, chip exports specifically, they saw a staggering 111% year-over-year jump. I mean, that is a massive spike. It clearly shows us that the global rush to meet AI supply needs is completely dominating the manufacturing sector right now. It's not just a passing trend, it's a fundamental structural shift in global trade.
But, this hardware boom is very much a two-way street. That 27% right there represents a massive surge in China's overall imports for the exact same period. Think about it. To manufacture and export those chips at such a blistering pace, all the raw materials, the manufacturing equipment, the components, they all have to flow inward first. This number proves the AI hardware boom is basically pulling the entire global supply chain along with it.
Okay, shifting gears to the Middle East, we've got a highly significant geopolitical update to look at. Donald Trump recently stated that Iran peace talks are currently in their final throes. And in the world of global markets, the prospect of resolving these long-standing tensions is a massive variable. It directly influences everything from energy prices right down to international shipping routes.
So, what's actually developing on the ground? Well, the underlying source material reports that Israel and Iran have mutually agreed to halt attacks. In real terms, this means a formal deal is potentially within sight, maybe even over the next 1 to 2 days. If that happens, it drastically lowers global risk premiums. For us watching the markets, a sudden drop in geopolitical volatility like this provides a much clearer runway for economic growth and global investment.
Moving right along to Section 2, Big Tech's Next Era.
$2,000. Yep, you heard that right. That is the anticipated starting price for Apple's highly rumored upcoming hardware innovation. It's a premium price point for sure, and it signals a massive leap forward in consumer tech. They are betting big on the consumer's willingness to invest heavily in next-generation form factors.
And here's exactly what that $2,000 price tag gets you. Recent leaks buried deep within the code of iOS 27 clearly reference new foldable hardware, reinforcing the long-standing expectation that Apple is finally entering the foldable market. The timeline? Well, interestingly, we're looking at a targeted launch in September 2026, releasing directly alongside the iPhone 18 Pro. This is a game-changer for Apple, moving away from incremental updates to a completely new device paradigm that requires incredibly complex manufacturing and, you guessed it, highly advanced chips.
Meanwhile, shifting from hardware over to software, we are seeing a tectonic shift in the corporate landscape. The very company driving so much of that massive AI chip demand we were just talking about, OpenAI, has just confidentially filed for an initial public offering. The private AI giant is officially getting ready to test the public markets. That is a historic milestone for the entire tech sector.
When you look at their roadmap, it's pretty clear they aren't leaving anything to chance. They are bringing in the absolute heavy hitters of Wall Street. OpenAI is actively working with Goldman Sachs and has partnered with Morgan Stanley to manage the whole shebang. And the timeline here is fascinating too, pointing toward a potential public listing as soon as fall 2026. Notice how that perfectly aligns with Apple's new hardware push. Fall 2026 is shaping up to be an absolutely monumental season for tech rollouts and public market valuations.
And finally, Section 3, Today's Market Calendar. Here's your immediate action item. For today, June 9, 2026, you need to be watching the U.S. existing home sales report dropping at 1700 GMT plus 3. Now you might be wondering, why does this matter after all the talk about AI and geopolitics?
Because housing is a primary indicator of consumer confidence. It shows us exactly how macro global stability, like easing tensions in the Middle East and booming tech industries, actually trickle down to domestic spending and everyday borrowing. It bridges that gap between global trends and local reality.
Which brings us to the core of today's explainer. I want to leave you with this to consider. How will global peace talks and the relentless AI hardware boom reshape your long-term market strategy? The dots are all connected here, guys. From Chinese chip exports to shifting Middle Eastern diplomacy, right down to the massive upcoming IPOs and product launches of 2026. Understanding these intersections is exactly how you stay ahead of the curve. Keep this question in mind as you watch the markets this week and keep learning. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.